You know, a scholar once said, boom.
Boom. I like that.
Oh man. Yeah, here we are. Get Valiant. This is episode 122. Um coming to you live. Not a whole lot going on right now. We've got a couple books to talk about. Those chibi action figures just came out.
Oh, I did forget about that news.
Josh, I think I lost you.
I'm still here.
Oh,
Hi.
okay. That's weird.
Who's is it? Is it Silver Fox Collectibles who's making those?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating to see those things. Like they look okay. I'm not really into them, and they're like $40 each. And they're like a little collectible kind of thing you probably put like on your bookshelf or something like that. But man, can we just get some normal Valiant merch? I mean, who wants to buy this stuff? And the shit on Silver Fox, those guys make like expensive statues. Everything's always expensive when it comes to any kind of
Yeah, they have
physical
like
character, representation,
yeah, they have like $600 statues and stuff like that. And I don't know, that's too much for me.
Yeah. Like yeah, there's like I mean, the Bloodshot statue looks cool that they're doing. Way too expensive. And these little chibis, that's what they're called. They're $40 each. They're like 3 inches tall. And it's just like, who? I mean, I don't know. I thought you made a really valid point when this was discussed on our Facebook page, where Valiant had like a representative who was like, "Hey, what kind of merchandise do you guys want to see? What's the stuff that you're into?" And I thought that was really cool of them to kind of reach out to the community and be like, "What is it you guys are into? Like, do you guys like these super expensive statues?" It didn't seem like anybody really was like, "Yes, more of that." It seemed like people were like, regular action figures or Funkos, things like that. People want that kind of stuff. And we still just get these like really weird merchandise options, like these chibis, and they're kind of ugly, to be honest. I did like the Ninjak one a bit, but they basically look like baby versions of the Valiant characters.
But that's what they are. I mean, that's what
Yeah,
they're supposed to be.
it's just a dumb thing, you know. Like
I mean, it's not really my thing, honestly, but
it didn't seem like it was anybody's thing, really, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, well, like I said in the group, I think that the fact that they're out there and that there are companies making Valiant products is cool. But I think that, when we're asked, what do you want? And we all say we want, action figures, I would just like an action figure. It's not worth harping on, though.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
it's
I mean, if
cool
you
that
want
stuff's
like
coming
something
out.
like an action figure, you can pay like $160 for like that Bloodshot one that looks like Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
that's another like thing where it's like who I just think the average fan isn't buying that. And I would hope that when the Bloodshot movie happens, and I meant to look this up. I don't know if there's any Funko Pops of like Vin Diesel characters from any of his movies. But I was like, man, I hope so, because there's a good chance then that we can get one of Bloodshot. There might be some Bloodshot characters then. But that's who knows, man. I mean, we might not get anything. I mean, Marvel at
Well,
this point, they can market their characters on a bag of Doritos, or like a 6 pack of Coke. And we'll be lucky we get anything even remotely close to that.
yeah, I'm not expecting Doritos or Pepsi or anything like that. But I mean, just getting action figures, just getting whatever, the normal type of merchandise that's out there would be awesome. Getting a better variety of, different things because there's so much you can buy from every other company.
I'll tell you what, there are two things I think that would be, well, I guess one thing, because both of these are going to be the same fucking thing. Um, I am kind of a sucker for buying like these metal popcorn tins at the movie theater and things like that. Because I'll take my kids and my kids will be like, "Oh, buy the Teen Titans Go bucket, specially made bucket of popcorn that's got Teen Titans Go on it." Or when my wife and I went and saw Spider-Man: Homecoming, I bought like a popcorn bucket that was literally Spider-Man's head, and you open up the top of his head to get the popcorn out, or like a metal tin of like Infinity War cups like that. Honestly, I'd buy that stuff if it had Bloodshot on it, because I'm like I said, I'm kind of a sucker for that shit, and I've got like a bunch of like movie theater cups of like the Infinity War and Endgame and Guardians of the Galaxy and Wonder Woman and all this kind of stuff. I got a bunch of popcorn buckets and stuff like that too. So I would be down with that kind of merch. Even though like a lot of people might be like, why? I'm that guy. I will buy that shit.
Yeah. I think a lot of that stuff, that's cool to have those luxury items like that. And I mean, they have like you can buy wall art, I think, or at least you used to be able to. But I think that having the less expensive, the lower level stuff that people can get and not feel like, oh, this is some huge, rare collector's item that I have to, put on a shelf and never touch again. I want a toy that if I break it, I can get another one without it being like a huge financial burden. So like if, you know, I don't know, man. I just think it would be nice to have more things that are more accessible because especially if we want to get kids and stuff into these characters, which is what's going to create the next generation of Valiant fans, they need to have those kinds of things that are that they can that are tangible to them and realistic because like I said, a lot of the things that are out there right now aren't don't really fit those criteria.
And I don't know how much of Valiant is really geared towards like young readers anyway. It seems like I read somewhere that DC is having like a good time reaching younger readers and things like that. I don't know if Valiant's really set up for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
These
that's
characters,
true.
I mean, our fan base is like so old. I feel like we're the younger people in it. I've seen some of the people like that populate some of these message boards like Valiant, and they're old. They're really old. So they should definitely get into some things like that. Like I mean, as much as both you and I mock Valiant High, Valiant High is a great thing for like a younger reader to kind of get an understanding of
Sure.
the characters a little bit. It's a little bit more fun, tongue in cheek, but like still like you would have an understanding of what those characters are and their abilities. The setting,
Well, and I think even things like the comic adaptation of Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe is a perfect example. That's something that's not overly adult. It's made to be consumed by a YouTube audience, really. So it's made to be, basically all ages, you know.
YouTube
Um,
is definitely like for younger people. I think like there's so
right.
much content being pushed on there for people. I would say under like 25 years of age, easily. Like there's
So I
just
would
so
just say that the sensibility of that story comes from that mindset. And because of that, that trade paperback is a really good self-contained story that says these are who these characters are and this is what this world is like. And obviously it doesn't give you everybody. There are tons of awesome characters that aren't in there. But I think that they got pretty much all the really badass core characters in that.
yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think it would be. I mean, like I think like if you look at the line, sometimes we sit there and we complain about certain books where we're like, oh, like I don't know, like we're not really feeling this or feeling that, and that is Valiant's way of trying to market things like to different patches of reader.
Yeah.
Not everything is geared towards you or I, and that's all right. And I wish like that's one of those things where sometimes when I see like some of the complaints where people are like, who is this for? It's like, well, it's not for us, but that's okay. Like either I like it or I don't, but I think the point that gets missed a lot of times in that kind of discussion is that that book you hate is liked by somebody else. If you hate it, someone out there does love it. So we
Yeah.
don't always need if Valiant wants to all of a sudden be like, hey, we're gonna put out like a bunch of like young adult stuff. As much as I'll be like, I don't know if I'll enjoy it, someone out there will. Just don't forget about everyone else. But like it's okay to take those shots. I mean, I do think like Valiant does kind of need to try to tap into like a younger demographic, but definitely as far as like the merchandise goes, I always just feel like try to get that stuff into more hands for less money per item than like fewer hands, but you're making so much on the item, because like honestly, like that Rice statue that came out like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I think it was like $500. How many people are buying that thing? It made sense when that first Bloodshot statue came out. That was like $200. because like we didn't have a whole lot of stuff like that. That was like one of the very first big ticket items like that. Now it just feels like everything is that big ticket item, and you can't keep up. I can't keep up, you know. And it made me kind of like, maybe in a good way, it took away that desire to try to be a gotta have everything collector. But I do want more stuff like that, just not as expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I did the gotta have everything with Bloodshot until it got to a point where I just couldn't handle it anymore, you know? Um, but anyway, there is a lot of stuff awesome with the comics. And I think that we get a lot of awesome things like really badass variant covers and stuff like that for the collectors who want to have everything.
Yeah,
Um, I just think it would be cool to have that other merchandise. But like I said before, I think the most important thing really at the end of the day is the fact that there are companies producing Valiant merchandise and there are things that people can buy and they can support those companies that are supporting Valiant and in that way support Valiant. And it may not be the exact things that we want, but at least they're getting stuff out there and they're not doing nothing. Because I would much, much rather have things coming out that aren't necessarily my favorite thing than have them not doing anything other than pure comics. So I shouldn't complain too much. But on that note, like I said, there's a lot of awesome comic stuff. We do have two comics to talk about. Livewire #7 and Psylords #1. Um, we will be going into spoilers for anybody listening, watching. And if anybody has any comments about the books, definitely let us know. And we're always happy if anybody is with us live. You want to interact, we're definitely happy with that. Um, anyway, yeah, we
and
have
then
a
real
couple.
quick, because we don't do this show on Wednesday. This is a new thing. So the
Yeah,
books came out today. So spoiler alert: if you haven't
yeah,
read this and don't want it spoiled, it's okay. Pause, go read your books, come back and join us. Otherwise, we're gonna be spoiling some stuff. So you're warned.
absolutely. So Livewire #7, I think that I've really been enjoying Livewire, and but I've been kind of curious where this arc is going to go. Like I don't, it's been hard to gauge, and I feel like this issue really made me feel great about this arc. I really like this issue a lot. I think it had a few, like overall, it was really good, but I thought it had a few standout moments that were especially awesome. Um, I think that the main things that stick out to me are when we were having Livewire talking with that girl. I can't remember her name right now, but
The
you
one in the
know,
red suit.
yeah, the one that she was trying to get out of there or to get her to
Oh,
help her.
the little girl that she's trying to like free.
Yes, her.
That's Phoebe. Phoebe.
Phoebe, that's it. Yes. Okay. So Livewire was talking to Phoebe, and when she was telling her, your parents miss you and they care a lot about you, I love that we got those like memories, those flashes in her head of like, okay, there were these moments. And then later, when we had that betrayal, we got to see, you know, the rest of the picture and why Phoebe maybe doesn't want to go home as much as Amanda assumes she does.
Yeah. I agree with that. One thing I've taken away from like Vita's run on this book is that Amanda just gets the crap kicked out of her like
Oh
constant.
my God, yeah. She's just getting destroyed.
Vita has really showcased how vulnerable Livewire is when she's not using her ability. And to me, like at some point, I do want to see a book where Livewire is using her abilities and just kicking the shit out of people. Like using the stuff. She's so powerful. She's one of the most powerful Psyops that we've had established within the Valiant universe. I want to see that at some point in this book because she does get kind of jobbed a lot. Jada beats her up in this issue at the beginning, and then Phoebe like punches her from behind and kind of just lays her out. And it's like, I mean, like at some point, I just want to see like her let loose and be like, look, like you know what I'm capable of, and the whole world is out to get me, and I'm a person who's like in a life or death situation everywhere I turn. I can't just hold back. And I get like making it so that you see like a little bit of vulnerability with the character, but at the end of the day, I do want to see like some like powerhouse shit happening here. But it does like this whole book has been pretty good. Um, one of the things I've liked outside of like what's going on with the story, Kano's art is awesome throughout this entire book. It's a beautiful looking issue. This whole storyline has just been great, and I feel like honestly, like since issue one, we've had great art. We only get one more issue of Kano on this, but the book looks great. Hopefully, we're going to get a really strong ending with the next issue because this issue ends with like Livewire bound. She's been captured. She's been beat up by like a kid, some lady in a tracksuit, Jada. Um, so we'll see where we're going. But I do think like it's cool to take Livewire in different directions than what we're used to with her. So I'm liking this story.
Yeah, the art is phenomenal. I definitely will give a lot of props there. I think that the coloring, and I think I've said this before, the coloring keeps it feeling like the previous arc, you know?
Yeah,
I think it's kept a very consistent feel to it. But yeah, it's definitely really solid art. I think that especially the fight scenes in this were really good. Um,
I
I
think
think that,
Nano's faces always look so great though. Like there's so many different expressive,
yeah,
um, that so much expression that you can take from the characters, like from panel to panel. And I think a lot of artists they don't do that. Like you don't get a lot of that. A lot of times it's just something different with the eyes. And with Kano, I just feel like you can see it from like the eyes scrunching up to anger on the face. Like the whole face just kind of contorting. It looks great. I like that. I wish more artists could look at what he does and pick up on that.
I think that there were, I mean, there's a series of panels when Amanda is being betrayed, and the look on her face is so genuine. And I thought that yeah, those panels did a really good job of capturing that emotion and like her confusion and yeah, there aren't a lot of comics that can artists that can do everything like that. I think that we've gotten the really awesome intimate moments with the characters. We've gotten the big bombastic action. Um, yeah, I just think that it's been a really well drawn comic. I think that the writing on this, I've said many times, Vita understands the character of Livewire, and I think that they've done a really good job of taking her from where they picked her up and now bringing the character on this journey. Um, I would compare it to kind of the way that Lemire did with Bloodshot, where he kind of really dug into and explored the character and put him through a bunch of crazy shit. Obviously, the story isn't comparable, but I think that it's that same kind of seeing who the character truly is put on the page, and that's when you're reading something by a really great writer. For me, this is, I mean, I don't know. I have a really hard time finding anything to knock on it. I don't want to just give out crazy high scores willy-nilly, but I think that this is a five. I mean, this is really
Wow,
exactly what I want from a live wire issue.
wow, that's strong, and that's okay, man. I'm gonna go a bit down. I'm gonna go with a four. It's a good issue. I think it's a good setup for what we may get with the ending. My only hope is we get to see Amanda let loose, man. Let's see some power. Let's see her like. I'm not saying we have to have gun hands or anything like that, but let's see her like whip some visibility, show these Omen people that she's not messing around. Um, but it was a good issue, and I've been a big fan of the run so far, so it's keeping me happy. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of character reason why we're not seeing more power usage from Livewire. I think it makes sense that she's in a headspace right now where she's going to be extremely conservative about when she does and doesn't use her powers.
Well, all right. So our next book is the big launch, uh,
Yay.
Psylords. So Eric, I have a question for you. How much do you know about the Psylords prior to this version of them?
Just about next to slightly more than nothing.
Okay, okay. And I wonder how much of that kind of will play into this, because I feel like um, there's a possibility with the way that our feelings on this book go that we might look at things a little differently just because I am still familiar with like the old version and you having no understanding of it. This is your first real experience with the Sight Lords. So, for the people who don't know, this version of the Sight Lords is four people. They're in some kind of weird intergalactic jail, and someone is communicating with them telepathically, I guess. And he lets them out. He gives them abilities, and they just go and wreck shit all throughout this like space prison. Um, for me, like I still remember, like I said earlier, I remember the old Side Lords, and they were based upon the hardcore. After Harada was finally defeated, they were the hardcore that left Earth, and they ventured out into space, and their abilities evolved, and they were like bastions and I think scouts, and there's one other classification of them, and they're all bound by color. So this approach at the Psylords so far seems super different. It's not the same thing, which is kind of different because I know that Valiant previously, when you've seen the characters get updated from the old versions, Exo Manowar is not really that different from 2012's launch as he was from like the old 90s one. Um, Bloodshot's not that different. Shadowman's not that different. A lot of the characters have so much of the core abilities and such retained. It's just done a little bit better. It's a little more modernized. Here, I'd have to look at it a little bit more, but it seems like they were just like, you know what, do something. We're just going to call it Slylords. That's kind of how I looked at it. Now, I don't hate this, but I'm just saying, like, as far as like how they approach taking an older property and revamping it, it seems vastly different than like anything else they've tried to do before.
So to me, number one, obviously, as we've established, I don't know anything about the previous Silords, really. Effectively nothing. And other than what you've just laid out, that's the extent of my knowledge. And so while I can acknowledge that, I will also say that I don't think a successful reimagining of the Silords has to look like or be what you know what I mean? Like, I could see that there was a conceptual link from what the Silords originally were to what they are now, and maybe there will be more or less of a link in the future. Who knows? But
Well, and I guess
maybe.
one thing I should say also real quick too is that if I'm reading into this right, these people are not the Side Lords. They're looking for the Side Lords.
Well, he
But
told them that they are now Silords, and they're looking for the other Silords. Is the way I
oh,
took
is
it.
that? Oh, yeah. So I messed up on that.
That's just the way that I took it. I mean, it's I don't know that I'm definitely no expert. I will say though that I read this issue a while ago. We got it quite a while back, and I think that when I reread it for this episode, I feel like I actually enjoyed it more.
I would
Um,
agree with that too. I feel the same way. Like when we first got it sent to us, I read it and I was like, I don't know if I like this. And I
yeah,
was kind of bummed because, first issues I feel like are really Valiant's bread and butter. I really like their first issues. They come off real strong. And the first reading of this, I was like, man, I don't know. I don't think this is going to make it to like a second year. But the second time I read it, I did like it a lot
and I think that what the tough thing about this book is that clearly a big part of this story is mystery and suspense, right?
more. Yeah.
So having a first issue of a suspense story can be extremely difficult because the whole point of it is to build suspense, not answer questions. So when you read a first issue like this, it's really hard not to come away from it feeling like, oh, nothing happened. And I mean, a little bit happened. They woke up in their cells, they broke out of their cells, and then they killed some people. And they found a guy who died.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really all that happened. But um, while those are really the events that took place in the book, we obviously got a lot of ideas thrown at us really, really fast. And I think that might be one of the reasons why I liked it better the second time. Because, I mean, this is the same thing with rewatching Game of Thrones, right? Like, I binged the whole thing basically right before the last season, and then watched the last season as the episodes came out. Now we're going back and rewatching it, and I actually know what's going on, and I have a whole different level of appreciation. So I would say the same thing for this Lords #1 is that this issue is so dense, and on the one hand, like I said, there aren't a lot of events. You get so much content thrown in your face that it can take, a second or third reading to digest it all. I can't confidently say I digested everything after two readings. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it's a dense book, and like I said, it struggles just for the fact that it's a suspense book. But I do think that it's handled well, and we also know Fred Van Lente basically always crushes it. I mean, he's always writing really, really good stories. So I'm definitely really excited to see where this goes from this first issue.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like reading through it, even after liking it more the second time, I still came away thinking, man, this is like really vague. There's not a lot to me given out. There's a lot of mystery here. There's a lot of mystery with like who they are, who the Lords are, where the hell they're at. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where you're kind of left reading this issue. You're like, man, I didn't get any answers to anything. And I think that's one of the hard things with this first issue, where the pacing's done okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the pace of the story. It's just you're not given answers to much. So it does kind of make it hard as far as like for me at least, it made it a little bit hard to like enjoy it a little bit more, because I thought, damn, there's just too many questions left over. I need some answers, goddamn it, a little bit. But I didn't dislike this book. So like I'm glad that they're doing this. I do kind of hope that I do like the fact that I like the old concept a little bit. So there's always going to be that thing in my head where I'm just like, oh, are they going to like tie certain things in? Are they going to go off the old code, like the old names, like gunners and scouts? Scouts, that's the one. Things like that. Are they going to? But they're probably not going to at all, and that's okay. Honestly, like I do have a lot of faith in how Valiant revamps things. They've done really good on that stuff. Also, I do like Fred's work on just about everything. I do think that Gen Zero started off better than it ended. Um, and maybe a lot of that's just to do with the fact that the sales weren't there and they just kind of had to wrap things up at issue 8. But this one, I'm just like, I really hope that like it's not going to continue to be like a lot of mystery the entire time. Like I do want some answers dropped here and there. I'm hoping, what I was thinking about with this title is I was kind of hoping it kind of takes the same route that Wrath of the Eternal Warrior took. I thought Wrath of the Eternal Warrior had an okay first issue, and as the series went along, I just enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite books that came out. I think very, very high of that title. 14 near great issues, just great stuff all around. The beginning of it wasn't great, but like I think it just got better. There's some awesome storylines in that book, and so that's what I'm kind of hoping will happen here. I might not love this first issue. I'm hoping though that it's a book that catches me. And I mean, really, like as much as I like Valiant, I want every book to be super enjoyable. I want to be able to enjoy everything because I invest a lot of time in it. But I mean, like this book, I mean, like I would have hoped it would have been a little bit better, but it's still good.
See, I don't know, man. Like I said, I think that it's one of those things where this isn't written as an episodic story. So the first issue can only be the setup for the rest of the story. Like I've been reading some more Marvel comics lately, and there are certain Marvel comics, some more than others, that are extremely like episodic. So like you could read one issue and there might be little bits of things that tie into other issues, but it's basically this issue is this story. Like I was reading some Conan comics and there was kind of an overarching story, a little bit that would happen in the margins of the story basically, but the core of each issue is this one story about this thing that Conan did. And it's cool because you could just pick up one of those issues and understand what's going on. Um, but this is the exact opposite. I think that this is, the kind of story that can only be told in a long form. Like if you go watch the first episode of Breaking Bad, you're not going to have any idea whatsoever what that show turns into. Right? Like if
And
you
that's fair. But at the same time, like someone can watch that first episode and be like, eh, you know. But that's also unfair though, because we know now how great Breaking Bad is. So like I don't know. We don't know
yeah,
how great this is going to be yet.
yeah, I think that there is a lot of worth in reading, knowing that this isn't meant to be an episodic story, knowing that this is meant to be an arc. I think that we can't really judge it completely until we have the whole thing. And as a fan of mystery and suspense stories, um, I'm really excited about the possibilities that this title represents. And I'm also I understand that the crux of a mystery story is the reveal. So whatever the reveal ends up being, as long as it's good, then I think that this is gonna end up being a great book.
Yeah, and that's fair. We'll see. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But we got to get some answers. We got to know
Yeah,
what.
and then the one thing that we haven't even touched on is the art in this book. I think Renato Gaitis is just so solid and consistent. It just so perfectly consistent every time that it's hard to even say anything.
I know there was a couple panels. I sit there and I think about this book and I'm just like I just like certain things with the panel work so much. There's one where I'm gonna break out the issue because I have an issue handy.
Whoa.
And, yeah, I didn't go to a shop, but we'll get to that in a moment. Um, I mean, looking at the page work, like looking on the page at this stuff, it just looks beautiful. Love how the coloring is. Um, this will only, there's a panel on one of the early pages where a guy conjures guns on his back. I like how it looks, and I love the onomatopoeia, like how it looks within the panel. It looks great. Um, yeah, Renato's work is just great on this, and I hope he's on every issue. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's possible with a Valiant artist, to have him like on every single issue, but keep him on every issue. The pages in this thing look great. Art wise, there's no issue with this book. It just looks beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no like panel where a face looks wonky or anything like that. Like that doesn't happen ever with Renato Gaitis.
What's crazy is like, what was his first thing that we saw him with doing with Valiant? It was like that Bloodshot Reborn annual, wasn't it? Or Bloodshot Reborn Zero or something like that. And his style was just not at all what he does. And everything he's done since then has just been really beautiful looking, like really artistic. So it's crazy, like I like his style. Stick with this style, man. It's what's working.
Yeah, I think that this is a super solid book, and I definitely one of the things that I will say that is really nice about this is that it's completely new reader friendly. Because no
That
matter
is super true.
what you know about Valiant, you're going to read this issue and have absolutely no idea what's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
You're at the
Yeah.
same level of not knowing what's going on. But like I said, I love those kinds of stories. And for me, um, I would say that this is a 4.25. I mean, I think that this is a really solid, really strong book, and definitely something where I'm looking forward to the. I think that this issue is going to be better in retrospect after we've read the whole story.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a bit lower. I'm gonna go 3.5 on this one. Again, I'm just hoping it's gonna get better. Like I said, when Wrath of the Eternal Warrior came out, I didn't think very highly of the first issue. It was probably about the same. And as that series went on, it just got better and better. There's a great storyline within that entire run, Labyrinth, and even like the 2 issues that lead up to it. The storyline after on that one is great too. So maybe that's what we're gonna get, and maybe that's how I'm gonna feel later on. Where like in 4 months, I'm gonna be like, man, Cyborgs is incredible. It just had a slow start, but here we are, and it's like it's very powerful stuff. One thing when I was saying earlier, like I'm curious about how you would look at this book, being that you don't know a whole lot about it. I'm really curious to see how people feel about this who are the older fans. and are like, oh, I like Cyborgs, or maybe they didn't like Cyborgs, but just like how they feel about such a revamp of the idea of what they are versus what new fans who don't know anything about it, like how they take it, Like I think this could be a really interesting thing with just seeing how people feel about it. And neither side is wrong or right. Everybody should enjoy what they enjoy. And that's just how comics should be. Just like what you like. But I am kind of curious to see like how the older guard, if you will, kind of looks at this a little bit. If they're like, what, like, how are you gonna work Ragnarok into this? Which, you know, that's its own thing. But again, though, like I think like if you do go into this with a little bit of an open mind, you can enjoy it. And I did enjoy this book, even though like I do like the older one. This is cool. This is cool too. So we'll just see.
Yeah. So were you saying you got some things?
I did, and I want to say a big thanks to Greg at Valiant, who just the other day was like, "Hey, what's your address?" And I was like, "Oh, here's my address." And I was like, "Man, are they just going to send me my Star Watchers patch?" Which they didn't. But they sent me a copy of Psylords, and they sent out to. I mean, he sent out a lot of these packages. I saw people posting all over Twitter and Facebook, like, "Hey, thanks," like a lot of people who do podcasts and things like that. And they gave us this light that it turns off after like a minute or 30 seconds. I don't know. It's pretty cool. My kids love this thing, man. It's like a lava lamp without the lava in it. It's just a lot of glitter.
Nice.
And they also sent me a tie, which I'm going to send to Eric this week.
Yeah.
I feel like it sent me something. I got to send you something. Even though I just sent you some books. Like
You
that's
did actually just send me a bunch of stuff that was pretty fucking awesome.
But I feel like, I think I told you this when I sent those books. I was like, I get a lot of opportunities because of the podcast to go to conventions, and I get to go to conventions that Valiant's at, and I get gold books. So I don't mind if I get to use my chance at a convention to get stuff for you, because I know that like in Minnesota, Valiant's not coming up there too much. Hopefully they change. Hopefully that's something that happens in the future, and then like I can stop sending you books.
You can stop feeling bad for me.
No. It's not. I'll be honest with you. It's not about feeling bad. It's just about the fact that I got an opportunity, and if I'm getting stuff, I want to share that stuff. That's all. So
Honestly, man, I think that the way that you and I originally met and started talking was your generosity. Because
because
the first time
I
that,
gave you those Dr. Mirage books, wasn't it?
yeah, and you wouldn't let me pay you for them. I was like, oh, I got to pay you for them. And you're like, no, I'll just send them. I was like, you can't just send them.
No,
I,
you know
I,
what? Like so, like when we met, like at that time, I was buying so much stuff to try to just fill in the pieces. Like I was buying lots off eBay and things like that. I had a bunch of like overstock. And I was just like, people would be like, oh, I'm just looking for like 2 issues of like Eternal Warrior, like old 90s Eternal Warrior. And I did, oh, I'll just send it to you. Just pay me shipping if you want. I don't mind. Like I don't need all this stuff. Like I've actually been going through my entire comic book collection, just trying to get rid of all the stuff I don't want. And I'm gonna try and do a garage sale at the end of the summer to sell all the books I don't want. Like pretty cheap.
man, okay.
I
I'm
got
sure
a
you got a
hundred
bunch.
boxes to go through. And
Yeah,
I know my kids don't care about this stuff. And honestly, you get stuck with so much crap that you're never gonna read again, and no one's gonna buy it for like $4 or $5. So it's like I'm just gonna wipe them. I'm just gonna put them all in a box for a quarter. Hopefully, I have like 12 long boxes worth. So like I don't know, 24, 30 short boxes would be like ideal. And I just want to get rid of it all because I'm like just tired of having like so much of this stuff that I'm never gonna read. I look at it in boxes and I'm just like, ugh, that was stupid. Goodbye.
man. Yeah, I'm sure you got a ton of stuff. Um,
Can't take it with me, and it takes up a lot of space.
fair enough. Well, you know what I didn't even do, and I normally try to have looked up is what Valiant has coming out next week.
Hey,
Um,
kind of a bummer though. Like real quick, just the last little point I have about this week is I was really hoping they would have sent the digital copy over of the Valiant handbook for 2019. I'm a huge fan of handbooks and Who's Who and official Marvel handbook and any kind of things like that that kind of chronicle like a character index. I love that stuff. And so I was like, God, why don't we get that stuff sent to us? I think, come on. I'll go buy a copy. That's not a big deal. But I was kind of hoping we would have got a digital of it just so I could have looked at it.
Yeah, well, I think that's just being spoiled.
That it is being spoiled. It is definitely being spoiled. But I was tempted to be like, "Hey Mel," like send Mel an email and be like, "Do you guys have a copy of this? Come on, hook me up."
I definitely like those as well. I think that it's really cool. As an existing fan, I like reading them to see how the company is presenting these characters to new readers. And I
Yeah,
remember when I first discovered Valiant, one of the things I picked up was I think that they had a handbook at that time, and that came out right at the beginning. And I was reading that, and trying to understand the characters, or maybe that's what they kind of did with the first free comic book day issue, something
well, they
like that.
used a lot of the like. I want to say the first couple of handbooks they did were like free comic book day, and then there was the one that had Dr. Mirage on it. I think that was like one that you had to buy. So I don't know. It's always cool stuff. I always just think like, come on, man, like send that stuff out to us.
So that little diversion gave me time to look up the books next week, and
Oh, I was gonna do that too.
so we've got Bloodshot Rising Spirit number 8.
Last issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, man. I mean, I think that considering the first 5 issues, I think we've gotten a good issues 6 and 7, and I think that there's a really good opportunity to actually finish this book on a high note. Um, I will say that I don't think that this book is completely terrible. I just think that it's not the best Bloodshot story. And it may be one of the lower tier Bloodshot stories, but I don't think that it's like the worst thing ever. I do think people are a little over dramatic or going a little into hyperbole when describing how bad they think this book is. I don't I think that a lot of us Valiant fans are spoiled because we get such high level everything all the time that when there is a book that isn't the greatest thing it could possibly be, that we get upset about it. And, I think that that's being spoiled. But there is
I
something to say. It's
maybe
not been perfect. Yeah, it's not been perfect, but it has gotten better with Elliot on it. And I'm excited to see where it ends.
I did think the last issue was good. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe we are. Maybe we're a little spoiled. I mean, like we get like 6, 7 books. That's not great, but like normally, I think like the 6, 7 books we get a month. I like all of them. And I used to buy a lot of Marvel stuff, and I used to just be like, oh, I'm gonna buy like 40 Marvel books a month, and I'd be like, I like 10 of these books. You know, 30 of these books are like okay. I would never read them again. So maybe in a way I do that you might have a point there where it's like, yeah, we only get a few books, but they're all good. So having one that kind of stinks though kind of hurts because I
Yeah.
only get so many books. I'm only
Yeah.
reading Valiant right now. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we're more forgiving of Marvel and DC. I mean, if there's one bad Marvel book on the shelf, I mean, you could probably buy another title with that character, you
that's
know?
true. That's true too. You only get one Bloodshot book. You can get like
Yeah.
6 Batman books a month or like 6 Spider-Man books. Or
We're going to go months now. We're going to get this last Bloodshot issue, and then it's going to take, what, 3 months before we get another Bloodshot issue on the shelf.
two because I think just July and August we won't have. September I think is when like
Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. Now I'm being over dramatic. So yeah, we're gonna have 2 months with no Bloodshot book on the shelf compared to, like I said, Marvel DC, you can buy how many books that, even if there's not that many books with Captain America in the title, how many books can you buy that he appears in one week? How many books, you understand the point I'm making. So yeah, I mean, I think that when we I get your point that when one of the characters, and this is the only book you can buy all month that he's going to show up in, and it's not up to the high standards we're used to from Valiant, it's not the greatest feeling. But
but
I
I'll
still
tell
think
you
it's
what
still
though,
a good book.
on that note though, I've bagged on Rising Spirit like the whole time it's been out pretty much. Except for last month, when we talked about issue 7, like I thought like that issue was pretty solid. So Elliot, give us one more good one, man. Like let's go out on top, all guns a blazing. Come on, Elliot.
I, as a fan of his, I feel very confident that's what's going to happen. And then the other thing that we get next week as well is going to be Punk Mama number 3. I think I was a little bit iffy on the first issue, but that second issue really sold me on this book, and I'm really looking forward to issue number 3.
Oh, great book, great book. People outside of Valiant are noticing this book. I see it on like a lot of different forums and different groups, a lot of spec groups. People are like, man, Punk Mambo, that's good stuff. So, that's a great thing. It's great when Valiant does something where they can pull readers in who aren't necessarily like familiar with all these characters and get them hooked on it. So like we've had 2 great issues. I'm looking forward to another one, man. Can't wait.
Honestly, I think Punk Mambo is such a great character for that to happen with, because, and I think I was talking about this when we reviewed issue number 2. The fact is, if you get that first issue of Punk Mambo and you're really interested in it and you follow the story and then it's done at issue 5 and you have nothing left to read and you want more Punk Mambo, you can go back and get her by reading Ninjak books. You can get her by reading Shadowman books, and I think that exposes you then to the wider Valiant universe, and then gives those readers an opportunity to, possibly get into other characters as well. So yeah, I'm very excited that, Punk Mambo is gaining popularity, and I think that it's for good reason, because this book is very, very well written. I've never thought Cullen Bunn was a bad writer, but I think that this is probably the best thing I've read from him. And
that's hard to say. I mean, I've read bits of like Carroll County. That book's pretty good.
I have not read that, so maybe I've just not read the right books.
Go to your library. Go to a library and see if they have the trades. It's pretty solid, man.
But also Adam Gorham is just killing it on the art. I think that his art is amazing in this book.
Yeah. I feel like, we were talking about Kano earlier and like facial expressions. And I feel like Gorham doing the same kind of thing with Punk Mambo, where like you just see so much going on with her face and the faces of the people around her in the book too, where it's just not like 2 different expressions and that's it, like she is drawn very expressive. I love it. And she's awesome.
Yeah, there was that one page. There was that page in issue 2 that had like the 4 panels of her face, and she was making a totally different face in each panel based, because of the whatever was going on the page. And yeah, I love those little things. Yeah, the art in this book has been great.
Yeah. So, tune in next Wednesday as we try to go through all this stuff, and if you like what we do, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook in our Get Valiant group. We have the Get Valiant on Twitter. We're even on Instagram, but we're not really that much on Instagram. But interact with us. We like hearing from you guys. We got a decent little group right now in our live chat, chatting with us, and we like interacting with you guys. So it helps us out if you do those little things. So check us out next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. I've been all over here all distracted talking about these books. I wasn't even watching the chat. But I missed it all. Look at that. Hey, William pointed out the Valiant on my wall. Absolutely. I'm super stoked about those posters. My wife actually just came home one day with that Quantum and Woody one, and it was fucking awesome. And then we were at the store that she got it from, and they had that awesome Bloodshot one. So, hell yeah.
I know. I have this frame right here. It's one of my wife's art prints. And I always think like when I do the podcast, I should just like get something different to hang right there, but when Archer didn't have my room, my comic book room, I used to have a nice little backdrop, and that's gone.
Yeah.
Well, now I just have this. So
this is the first time now that I'm finally having a cooler backdrop than you.
You wait till next week. I'll figure something out.
Damn it. Shouldn't have said anything. Yeah, thanks again, everybody that hangs out with us, supports not only us, but even more importantly, Valiant and the books that they're putting out. Obviously, we're getting great books. But yeah, thanks, everybody. This has been Get Valiant number 122, I believe, if my memory serves.
That's what it says on YouTube.
Nice. I'm good. All right. Signing off. I'm Eric Baumgard.
And I'm Josh Rathbun.
I hope that you all stay valiant.
#stay valiant.